It's Friday night, which means it's time for another episode of the Friday Night Nicktoons podcast. I'm Casey.
And I'm Ashli. Last time we discussed Rocko's Modern Life's episode, I Have No Son.
We also put out our weekly Twitter poll asking whether you guys want to see us on YouTube or not. And we didn't get a huge voter turnout for this one, but the answer was overwhelmingly yes. So I'm going to take that as enough of a mandate to set up this YouTube channel, and we'll see if you guys start commenting on it. I would love to see that. So go check that out. I'm going to say, I'll make a promise to myself that it will be functioning with, let's say, just the 2018 episodes for now. So just last week's episode and this one. And maybe I'll archive the rest of them as we go on.
Yeah, I'm hoping that we get some good, banter and comments and whatnot on there. So I'm hoping you guys end up using it a bit. We'll see how it goes. I think it'll be a good new medium for us.
And I'm genuinely hoping that just like the scum of YouTube end up giving us like a couple comments. I don't want to be like swarmed by them, but just to get a laugh every once in a while. Like Patricia and I got one on We're in Between recently that just said, "You guys sound like nerds." And I just love content like that. Like, please keep that coming. I find it extremely entertaining.
Yeah, gotta love the trolls a little bit, right? Just a dash of trolls.
Yeah. Pepper 'em in. Yeah. God.
All right, well, this week we'll be discussing SpongeBob's episode, Artist Unknown, and this is inspired by Casey purchasing me a painting of Bold and Brash, which I'm sure we will discuss as we get into the nitty-gritty of this episode here.
I feel like it won't come up. It's not really relevant,
Oh, shush.
Follow us on Twitter at FNN_podcast and on Facebook, facebook.com/FNN podcast. Review us on iTunes so others can find the podcast. And also, follow us on YouTube now. The channel is just called the Friday Night Nicktoons podcast.
Thanks so much, as always, for tuning in. Now, let's get started.
From the Nicktoon Animation Studio in Hollywood. Hollywood.
Alright guys, our episode this week, as we said, is SpongeBob's Artist Unknown. It's from Season 2 and it's episode 18B. And this one aired on September 21st, 2001.
And in this one, Squidward becomes an art teacher at the rec center, where unfortunately SpongeBob ends up being his only student, much to his dismay, which, it's such a great concept of an episode.
Just the, Squidward teaching at a rec center is such a Squidward move, No offense to anyone who does that. I think that's amazing. But, of course Squidward would. It would be such an ego thing for him. It wouldn't really be about helping people.
Yeah, that's the thing, too. And, again, not an insult to people who teach classes at rec centers, but, it seems as though he's acting as though he's now, a famous artist because of it. Dude, you're teaching at the rec center. Calm down. It's one thing to be excited about it and be like, oh, I'm so excited to be able to teach these people and inspire them, but it seems like he's more excited to be able to brag about his wonderful abilities, which he may or may not have.
Yeah, you can debate whether Squidward is a talented artist or not, but in this episode we learn that SpongeBob is an objectively brilliant and, raw talented artist.
At least at the beginning, right? So...
Until he's discouraged.
Yeah, but... it's so good. First off, there's a huge, huddled mass of people outside of this, and he's like, "Welcome to art class." And everyone's like, "Oh, this isn't cooking?" And literally everybody but SpongeBob leaves, and he was hidden behind at first. It's such a beautiful reveal to Squidward's worst nightmare.
Exactly. And what about the bored housewives bit? Because I didn't really internalize that as a kid.
Yes. It's I don't remember exactly how it leads up. I know that there's a black and white image of a housewife where it says something about making art in his image, and then it switches out the housewife's face with Squidward's face.
Yeah, and the 50s era husband looks confused all of a sudden. What a great weird cross media sort of thing that happens there.
it's one of those moments that you miss, and I've seen this episode God knows how many times, and I didn't remember that at all.
Right. And the reveal of SpongeBob is so wonderful. It's like, because you really don't expect him to be in the crowd, and then all the cooking class people leave, leaving only SpongeBob, who we haven't seen yet, and he is so pumped.
I love how much he admires Squidward, too. He's like, who do you think the teacher will be? And Squidward's like, it's me. He's like, this is an art class. It's heaven. Just like SpongeBob's obsession. It's so great.
Maybe we need to dig more into SpongeBob's relationship with his father, because any seemingly competent adult male in the SpongeBob world, he idolizes. Like, when they're talking about Mr. Krabs, or they're talking about, like, if you could be anyone, who would you be? And he says Mr. Krabs, and Squidward's like, what? Why would you want to be Mr. Krabs? And SpongeBob just goes, because he's a good leader. And he's so not.
I mean, he also... I don't know if he exactly admires Mrs. Puff, but he definitely has a way of not seeing people's flaws, you know?
Yeah,
like,
that's true.
He seems to think that they've got this grade A relationship going, and she obviously can't stand him. He's just very oblivious.
Yes.
But
in the classic creed that Squidward teaches him that starts with, I have no talent.
Yeah, which, you know, I imagine that this is what he would have done with the entire class.
Mm-hmm.
I
don't know if it's been done for this episode, but you know those SpongeBob memes where they take screenshots and capture them and caption them with either like movies or historical moments, like, you know, an East Berliner and a West Berliner reunite after the wall falls, and it's like a SpongeBob picture, you know? It says like colorized 1989. I want one of those, but for the movie Whiplash 2014, through it, because I watched it recently, and it is shockingly similar to this episode in some ways.
Yeah, you know, I literally just watched that movie last night, and
whoa, that's nuts.
I can kind of feel that. I mean, SpongeBob doesn't get quite as stressed, though, as the main character in that one, right?
Yeah, it's but they're both in a way about the, like, tough love of a mentor and whether the mentor is in it for themselves or the student. And I think in both cases, the teacher is more interested in his own ego than bettering his students.
Oh, well, I think in Whiplash there's some argument for one way or the other, perchance. Yeah. In SpongeBob here, there's none.
If anything, Squidward is, like, actively trying to make SpongeBob worse because he's jealous.
Yeah, which starts out with... we gotta talk about the circle, right?
Yes.
The circle moment. First I draw this head, and it's just this, you know, like, meticulously drawn head with, like, every single detail you could ever imagine, and him erasing everything else, which all of that is ridiculous, right? Like, you can't erase pencil that quickly, that precisely, that well, right? You'd normally still be able to see it, but nope. It's just a perfect circle on this piece of paper, and it's beautiful. Also, Squidward's circle is atrocious.
Oh, it's so bad, and he's so smug about it, too.
Like, I don't know. I don't consider myself a great artist, but, man, it's honestly... I would find it difficult to draw a circle that bad. Like,
yep.
It's almost impressively bad.
And then Squidward brings out these blocks of marbles that they're going to craft on. And also, what kind of rec center class can afford marble statues? Tons of them. Like blocks of marble to carve statues out of.
Oh, wait, before we get to that, though.
Yes.
I feel like we got to cover the leapfrog jokes. There's just a couple of them. They decided to do origami. And I don't even remember what Squidward makes, but whatever. And then SpongeBob makes this, like, moving origami of them leapfrogging, and SpongeBob is on top. Squidward gets mad about it, rips to shreds, and SpongeBob, like, makes a paper mosaic that he calls Rippy Bits into a new leapfrog moment. And he's like, see? You're on top this time. And it's just... You could see, like, him trying to, you know, make him appreciate his art, trying to make Squidward appreciate it. And also just the idea, like, who decided when writing this episode, you know what SpongeBob's art thing should be? he should really like making leapfrog.
Yeah. Yeah, that was great. It's kind of like when you're mad at a dog and then it keeps doing its one trick to you. Like,
Yes.
we've always taught our dogs how to, like, do paw, where they, like, give you their paw, and so if we're ever like, what did you do? They'll be, like, pathetically, like, putting their paw up in the air, like, you like this, right? This is good? So, as we already knew, SpongeBob is a puppy.
Yes, and yeah, unfortunately, Squidward, and you can tell Squidward recognizes that he's really good at art, that SpongeBob is, and he just keeps trying to be like, alright, let's move on to this other thing. He's got to be bad at this thing, which is where we get to the marbles, right? He's like, honestly hoping that SpongeBob will be terrible at anything.
Yeah. Exactly. And so SpongeBob, you know, in one hit of the marble, it immediately shatters into, like, a perfect Michelangelo's David. We hear the, like, Tchaikovsky Romeo and Juliet love theme come in, that da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and Squidward is just, like, jaw to the floor.
Yes. Also, and another thing that I've always found to be funny is just when Squidward goes to teach him how to do the marble, he, like, barely hits it, and the whole thing just falls to rubble. Like, that's also not how that works.
Of course, yeah, it's so ridiculous. It's that classic cartoon logic of, like, we need a bad thing to happen. What's the worst thing? And for SpongeBob, we need a good thing to happen. So what's the best thing? I love it.
It works so well. It's great every time. I know the jokes, right? I've seen this episode however many times, but they're still gold. And of course we get Squidward's ever necessary criticism that he got the nose wrong. And he plops on a Squidward nose on top of this Michelangelo statue, which that in itself just looks so funny. The jokes just keep coming.
Now it's art. And, okay, can I pause it for a second, Ashley? Just a hot take. I haven't thought through it all, but I really think that the art collector is, or the art guy, Monty P. Moneybags, is probably my favorite one-time character on this show.
He's gotta be up there.
Oh, and I'm just realizing you took a very similar note. I didn't read that.
No, I figured you didn't. I said the art collector is one of my fave random one-off characters. He might be the all-time fave. You know, that might be something that would be fun to, a year from now, think about, right? Like, our top one episode only characters.
It's so specific.
But
and
they
definitely have to be really good to remember them, too.
Right. But they definitely show up, right? Other than just good old Monty P. Moneybags. Such a to-the-point name.
And he's so funny and, like, likable, even though he's this rich snob.
Oh, God. And just his jokes are so good. Like, I don't think that would fit in with the other pieces in my collection. Well, why not? Because it's an art collection. And, like, he's cracking himself up, too. Like,
and then, the classic, I call it bold and brash. More like belongs in the trash. And then a janitor walks up with a garbage can and goes, sorry, I must have missed that one. Which, next time I'm over at your place, I'm gonna do that, and you're not gonna be able to stop me.
Well, as long as you don't permanently ruin it. You know, it's pretty big, honestly. Like,
That's
I'd have to find a bigger garbage can.
Yeah.
But you can, like, throw it on top of my small garbage can in my room just for the lulz, and...
Or I could put it on you and say you're the trash.
Hey, now. No,
I'm not touching that thing. It was too much money. I don't want to even risk breaking it.
I think you could probably touch it, and it would be A-okay, but...
Sure.
Unfortunately, Monty P. Moneybags does not quite seem to think it's as great as you do, Casey, because, he would not put it in his art collection.
Yeah.
And then I think those are the only two he shows, right? I forget what the first one's even called, but it's like a little statue thing, then that. And then he's like, oh, what's this? And he, of course, looks at SpongeBob's beautifully crafted statue and decides that's what he must have for his collection. Squidward just says that he's the one who made it, which, you know... an expected lie, but I love that he goes to carry it out, and the head falls off. And he's like, "Ah, no worries. You can just whip up another one." Like,
It's a classic sitcom move when you lie your way into something and then there's a "how will he ever get out of this" twist to it. Squidward has cast SpongeBob out, basically. He's wearing like he went to the dump to just, be miserable, basically?
yeah, because he doesn't deserve anything. I forget all the rationale. Oh,
Yeah.
You know what? He's like, "I don't even deserve to use this door." And then, like, he gets thrown into the dump on accident. Like,
Right,
he
yeah.
gets thrown into the garbage can. He's like, "I deserve this, and I deserve this, and I definitely deserve this." And
Poor sulking SpongeBob is so pathetic and sad.
yeah, he's over the top in everything he does, right? But
What's the
Yeah.
episode? Oh, the Christmas special where he's crying about or after he's crying, he does the Santa bit, but he makes that awful face. Remember, he like walks up slowly up to Squidward with his head and his eyes all heavy.
yeah, he's hard to watch, man. But but now obviously Squidward needs to get him back, because the ever so rational decision of the art collector to say, "Well, I ruined this ridiculously beautiful sculpture, but of course you can just make a new one, because that's how artists work," right?
Yeah. Or and then Squidward has to basically go to the dump and convince SpongeBob to like come back, and SpongeBob's living in a kelp box now, which is great.
Yeah, he also he like detaches his hands from himself, and they go and walk off into a tin can, because apparently they're so terrible at art that he can't even have them. It's a beautiful moment.
It really is, yeah. Yeah, so it's, Squidward's saying, I like, "Come back, your art is good, you're a good artist," and SpongeBob keeps going, "Really? Yes, really. Really? Yes, really. Really, really?" It just keeps going. It's so stupid.
Yeah. And then Squidward's like, "Really? Okay, let's go."
Yeah.
And SpongeBob's
It's
like,
kinda
"Yeah, okay."
yeah.
Really?
Really?
Like the one more.
It's like Ralph Bighead, the never, 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 never.
And, there's also a brief moment where our good old Bold and Brash comes back, and SpongeBob finds it in the dump, and is like, "Oh, look, Squidward, it's old Bold and Brash." Which I like the idea, too, of SpongeBob admiring him so much that he knows the names of his stupid art pieces.
Yeah, it's old, bold, and brash. Yeah, because of course SpongeBob would commit that to memory. He really cares about the people in his life,
Absolutely. Yeah, so they go back, and, essentially, SpongeBob starts doing art Squidward's way by the book. There's a literal book of art that Squidward has, and he can't draw a circle anymore. He can't do origami right. He, so on and so forth. But they move forward to the marble, and one of my favorite little montages is SpongeBob being like, I forget all of them, but he needs to envision the art within. I need to lick the marble.
Yeah.
I need to feel the marble.
Yeah. I need to be the marble. I need to date. You gotta date the marble. They're like at a nice restaurant suddenly.
Yes.
So SpongeBob tries to do it by the book the way Squidward taught him, and it's absolute crap. And Squidward is like, "Well, look what you've done." SpongeBob's like, "Oh, you're right. There. Now it's art," and puts a Squidward nose on it. Where are they getting all of these Squidward noses?
They just got them prepped, man. You gotta be prepped for the art.
That's
Squidward.
true.
Not Squidward.
True.
I just called you Squidward. That actually just
fair.
happened.
Oh my god.
You gotta be prepped for the art, Casey. You gotta have your Squidward noses ready. It's one of your staple supplies.
Oh man.
I figured you, as your
good stuff.
artsy fartsy boy, would know these types of things, man.
That's true. I mean, I have 5 in my room. I'm just surprised that SpongeBob would.
That's true. I guess when he decided to go by the book, he got prepared right away.
Yeah, or this rec center can afford, like, literally dozens of blocks of expensive marble, so I guess they can afford a couple of Squidward noses.
They can afford... God, just... It is ridiculous, right? Like, we cannot imagine that they are paying Squidward a lot of money because he is a terrible artist.
Yeah.
So...
I hope for Bikini Bottom's sake that Squidward isn't the bar, you know?
Yeah.
Well, and his meltdown is extremely relatable here, getting into the very end. Basically, Squidward completely snaps when he realizes that he's not going to be able to win over this art collector because SpongeBob won't make him another statue, or he can't. And Squidward just starts picking up blocks of marbles and smashing them on top of each other over and over and over again. While he's having this meltdown, SpongeBob goes, "Oh, well, back to the dump." He hops in his Kelpo box, or whatever it's called, and starts, to the tune of the William Tell overture, he's going to the dump, to the dump, to the dump, 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 to the dump, to the dump, to the dump, 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 which is amazing.
Yeah, I just like how apparently, too, like, Squidward's meltdown is enough for him to just be like, well, guess it's time to live in the dump again. Like, he's not even upset about it. Just, this is what happens now.
Yeah, exactly. And do you want to get to the button of this?
Sure. So Squidward's done having his meltdown. The art collector comes back, and he's all, what's the matter with this? And, or who's responsible for this? That's what it is.
Yeah.
And Squidward's like, for here on out, he's responsible. Throws his beret onto the janitor
who threw out the bold and brash.
Yeah, the same one who was, taking care of that. And we see an even more beautiful, even more realistic statue. And the art collector goes, "You, sir, are the greatest artist who ever lived." And that's it.
Like, it's an episode made entirely out of sitcom tropes, but it's the combination of them that is so surprising and entertaining.
Yeah, and
like,
it's
the twist at the end where SpongeBob doesn't get the credit, Squidward doesn't, but the janitor, and it's because Squidward made beautiful art. You cannot say that you saw that coming at the beginning of this episode.
No, and I think it's sort of this weird idea of when you're not trying to do things by the book, you can suddenly make some kind of art happen. It's not like a lesson necessarily, but just like that's the reoccurring thing that goes down. And
but even the storytelling of it, like, it goes both ways. In order for Squidward to make good art, someone else had to get the credit. And the only way that Squidward is going to make good art is if it is in this sort of dramatic irony where he finally could have had it all, but someone else gets the glory.
Yes, because he's not even aware himself. Yeah. Like, he won't even
never know
that he made.
He never looked at it.
Nope, because he's just done. He's just furious and done and has given up on everything. And that is the moment where he makes the most beautiful artwork possible. It's...
I want to pose a question for you, Ashley.
Yes.
Is the show SpongeBob, if we only look at it through the lens of Squidward, where let's say you're directing SpongeBob and you decide that Squidward is your protagonist, is it a tragedy?
Kind of.
I think it is.
Especially moments like this, right? Like, he's just trying to teach his art class. When he finally gives up, that's when he loses sight of the success he would have had, right? Like, I kind of see it.
I'm going to make one of my classic ridiculous comparisons. I've kind of already done it with Whiplash, but what was the one you freaked out at me over? You were like, I hate you for that, but you're so right. It was a long time ago. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I remember that moment vaguely, but Casey, there's so many moments I say I hate you during this podcast that it's hard to remember a specific one.
It was like Plankton or something. Oh, man. I'm going to have to do some digging and find that.
Yeah, I do remember that moment, but not clearly enough. Right. But I know that it was out of hand.
Yeah. It was just an elaborate metaphor. But here's another one. Squidward is the ancient Greek Sisyphus, doomed to roll a boulder up a hill, and that is his eternal Hades. That is, Squidward has this giant task that he's just to live his life in peace. That is his Sisyphean, whatever the adverb is of that task, is keeping SpongeBob out of his life, and he will always be unsuccessful at it.
You know, I kind of hear you a little bit, a dash.
That's about as good as I'm going to get from you.
This is what we keep Casey around for. Is his
for the occasional far-fetched comparisons.
Yes.
Good.
Yes. If nothing else, that's what we need you for, Casey.
Amazing. This one's definitely like a top 20 episode for me of SpongeBob. Maybe even top 10.
And this is another, and I promise I'll stop doing this once we get further into it, but this is another one of those moments where I'm glad for this new format, because doing like art episodes never really felt like it was going to bring 3 grade A good quality Nicktoon episodes, but this one episode deserves to be talked about.
100%. Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know how we would have fit this in otherwise.
Like, I'm sure we could have dug some things up, but I promise you at least one of them would have been an average at best episode. So, right. I think that's about everything I've got on this guy, but it's a classic. It was well worth the rewatch, and yeah, that's about it for me.
Yeah, that's all I got as well. Shall we move on?
Sounds good. Our Twitter poll for you guys this week is, would you rather taste, date, or be the marble? Based on, SpongeBob's tried and true techniques here.
Yeah, or if you prefer one of the many other options that is suggested in the episode, tweet us your answer. Or come up with your own verb. I don't mind.
Yeah. What do you need to do to the marble in order to make it into artwork? Let us know.
All right. Well, next week, thanks to our longtime listener, Cam, we are getting to My Life as a Teenage Robot again for the first time in, at least 60 of our podcast episodes.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
So we're doing the episode Victim of Fashion, recommended by Cam. So no pressure, Cam. We're just going to judge whether or not we do the show again based off of your one suggestion. So we'll see.
Truthfully, though, we do appreciate the recommendations. Feel free, guys, to throw out your favorite episodes. Is there a show we haven't been touching a lot lately? Are there episodes that you are just like, wow, how could they not cover this one? Hit us up and feel free to let us know on Twitter. You can find us at FNN_podcast. You can also let us know on Facebook. That's facebook.com/FNN podcast. Or you know what, now you could even comment it on any of our YouTube videos upcoming. Our YouTube page is just the Friday Night Nicktoons podcast, so you can find us there, subscribe, and make sure you're catching our episodes week to week.
Totally. Well, thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.